I'm Megan. I am a painter and more recently also a digital artist. So I would say that the overarching theme for this show is anxiety. Uh, I would say the past year, I guess year and a half now, there has been a lot of anxiety for me, and literally everybody else on the planet. Uh, so a lot of my artwork has been kind of focused around that. Usually going out into nature and hiking and camping and doing all that stuff is what kind of calms me down, but it was much harder to travel. Even over the summer, there were a lot of, or last summer, there were a lot of travel restrictions. I couldn't really go out of state. It was just much harder. So I got a lot of plants and tried to kind of bring the nature to me. So I was bringing, what I normally see outside, bring it inside. But that still wasn't quite right. Because even with that, there's still kind of this like it just wasn't really meeting my nature needs as much as, hiking and being outside does. So I ended up kind of juxtaposing these plants that are usually outside in nature with these more interior kind of scenes like patterns and these more kind of sterile backgrounds to, I guess, just try and communicate that tension between like what should be outside, but it's now living inside. I started with oil painting, and I would still consider myself much more of an oil painter than a digital artist. And I would say I pretty much always come back to oil painting. It's such a dense medium. Like there's so many things that you can do with that. So it's just very interesting. I can continue to kind of delve into that. And observational painting is just something that's always at the heart of what I do. A lot of my digital illustrations are kind of imagined things or patterns or different things like that. So even those things, like whenever I paint from observation, usually the stuff that I then pull from my head gets better because I just have this bigger image bank in my mind. So yeah, I started with oil painting. I would say the digital was inspired by just teaching virtually. I teach high school art, and my students actually had some great digital programs that they were already using, and they just kind of talked to me about. And it was just a great medium for them to use. We did some lessons with that because it's portable, it's easily carried from home to school, it's easily shown, on the screen and all of that. So it just made sense, especially for the beginning of the school year with so much uncertainty. So that's whenever I started really looking into that. And it just happened to fit in really well with what I was doing, like in my own personal artwork. So I had been kind of exploring more patterns and thinking more about how I could create the patterns that I used in my paintings. And I had last summer been doing a lot of like linoleum block printing to get my patterns, but that was very time consuming because I'm really just doing this to use it in the background of a still life that I'm painting. So I'm making a whole print to just use it in the background. And it was just, a whole very process heavy. So doing them digitally was a way to do that same thing, but a little bit quicker. And I could, get it printed on fabric, I could print it on paper, and it was just a little more versatile. So the anxiety birds and like the lemonade birds, those two things I got printed on fabric and made like pillows out of them. Yeah, so I'm just kind of experimenting with like how else these could kind of translate. This year, the patterns just seem to describe really well what I was trying to communicate. So, my work was kind of dealing a lot with anxiety, and I think oddly enough, what created some of my anxiety or like this, I don't know, tension that I was feeling was just that I would wake up in the morning, like do the same thing that I did the day before, and then like go to bed and do it again the next morning. So it was like this very rigid structure. I didn't really see anybody else. I mean, my husband, I guess we saw, but like, I don't know, we, are just in the house doing the same thing, with the same people every day. So there was this very rigid kind of structure. So a pattern also has that same rigid kind of structure. So it just felt like it fit the COVID of it all. So that's kind of how it stuck around so long, I guess. And patterns that also, I guess, just have this very kind of vibrant, like in your face kind of feel almost, having the same thing repeated a lot. It just draws my eye to it. So in some of my paintings, I would kind of use that to create like this feeling of anxiety. So for example, I think it's actually called anxiety. My painting with a little plant in a mug, and it has this pattern behind it, and it's this really crazy pattern. And I was trying to make it feel like it's just pressing on these leaves and kind of overtaking them. So to me, pattern worked really well for that too. I feel like the most influential thing, I guess, since art school is just having more life experiences. I feel like in art school, I was very concerned with just, replicating what I saw kind of in my paintings. I really wanted to communicate like form and light and have great composition and all of that. And, content kind of came later. So I guess just with more life experiences, I've kind of have more to say maybe, and just, and as it should be, I feel like I'm putting more of an emphasis on content and really making that important in my work. I guess I've always been kind of inspired by nature, so I guess that's been a constant. But I guess before, the past couple years, I hadn't really felt this looming anxiety. So I guess that's new in my work. I don't know. I guess this kind of goes back to like the art school thing maybe, but whenever I was in school, I was very concerned with like being competitive and really trying to like be the best. It and I don't know how applicable that could really be to painting, but I've just always been very competitive. So I really brought that um, to what I was doing in art. And I don't know, I guess overcoming that, it's not necessarily about being the best because really that's a hard thing to accomplish in painting because what is the best, Um, but I've been really trying to communicate more. So, meeting my goal would be like, did I communicate this thing effectively? Not just striving for the best because that is not real, doesn't mean anything. Um, yeah. I kind of love that this work is a part of an online gallery. I feel like it was very inspired by COVID and really bloomed out of my COVID experience. And I feel like appreciating art online has also bloomed out of a COVID experience. So it seems very appropriate. I would say looking at my website, which is megankunst.weebly.com, and then emailing me. So, same thing, megankunst@gmail.com to inquire about anything that they're looking at. I also have an Etsy shop, mostly filled with stickers right now, but my Etsy shop is Megan Kunst Designs.